this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind, and write them in their hearts. And I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord. For all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins, and their iniquities will I remember no more. In that he saith a new covenant, he hath made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away.
According to the Holy Scriptures, Yahweh Shai, the Son of the Most High, is set to bring immortality to the nation of Israel, the elect, via establishing the tabernacle of David, as we talk about the second coming of who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. He is coming to take down this current world ruled by Esau, Edom, and establish a righteous kingdom, which is synonymous with the throne of David. That's scriptural, which is a government that's going to run this world in righteousness.
But now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he saith, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind, and write them in their hearts. And I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord. For all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins, and their iniquities will I remember no more. In that he saith a new covenant, he hath made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. For this is...
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds, in the name of Yahweh Bashem Al Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al Shai. All right, and what we want to get into today is dealing with the book, all right, of 1 Samuel, the 9th chapter. All right, and we've made it to the point to where we're going to see Apostle, it's like we're going to see Saul, I'm thinking of Apostle Paul, but we're going to see Saul come on the scene, you know, and he's going to be called to the kingship of Israel, okay, in which he's from the tribe of Benjamin, as we're going to get into these things. So, I want to start this here first, because we know dealing with, all right, King Saul, you know, he was called, but ultimately he wasn't chosen, you know, but the Lord was dealing with him, all right, for, all right, a period of time, you know, and the Lord, all right, let's go here to, this Matthew 22:14, said, For many are called, but few are chosen. Okay, as we know, you know, that a lot of men have been called into this ministry, okay, but everyone that's called is not chosen. You know, it was appointed, you know, for some men to wake up, okay, and be called into this thing, but not to be of the chosen, you know, and they fall out, you know, they bug out, or they become, you know, enemies of the truth, all right, which we know the story with King Saul. So this is a very, you know, interesting story, you know, dealing with King Saul, and we can learn a lot, you know, from all these accounts, of our forefathers and our history. All right. And then they have a spiritual meaning for the day. Okay. So let's go back to 1 Samuel chapter 9, verse 1. It says, there was I started one. It said, there was a wealthy, influential man named Kish from the tribe of Benjamin. He was the son of Abiel, the son of Zerah, the son of Bechorath, the son of Apiah of the tribe of Benjamin. His son was the most handsome man in Israel, head and shoulders taller than anyone else in the land. So when Israel looks at Saul, of the tribe of Benjamin, and he looks the part. Israel is just looking for a king, so he's tall. He's handsome. He's come from a particular family. In Israel. Amongst the tribe of Benjamin, and Israel sees these things, these criterias, okay, these outward criterias, and this is whom they want to be their king, okay. And it says, one day Kish donkey strayed away, and he told Saul, take a servant with you and go look for the donkey. So Saul took one of the servants and traveled through the hill country of Ephraim, the land of Shalashah and Shalim area, and the entire land of Benjamin, but they couldn't find the donkeys anywhere. Finally, they entered the region of Zuph, and Saul said to his servant, let's go home. By now, my father will be more worried about us than about the donkeys. But the servant said, I just thought of something. There is a man of the Most High who lives here in this town. He is held in high honor by all the people because everything he says comes true. Let's go find him. Perhaps he can tell us which way to go. So Samuel, is a man that's honored amongst Israel because there was no doubt that the Lord was dealing. He was an elder. He was a righteous judge. Okay, he was a prophet. Okay, and he was honored amongst Israel. Okay, and we're just gonna go into it more. It says, but we don't have anything to offer him. Saul replied, even our food is gone, and we don't have a thing to give him. Well, the servant said, I have one small silver piece. We can at least offer it to the man of the Most High and see what happens. In those days, if people wanted a message from the Most High, they would say, let's go ask the seer, for prophets used to be called seers. Okay, so Samuel was a prophet. He was a priest. He was a judge. Okay, and it says, all right, Saul agreed, which those are offices, we have today, as we judge, matters amongst ourselves, amongst the body, okay, amongst the congregation, depending on, what order. But each brother is a judge, in our own capacity, man, even if it's just judging ourselves, man. Okay, a prophet, okay, and the priest, in training. Okay. So those officers that Saul, like that Samuel had, this is what we have now, and we're being, perfected. You see, and it says, all right, Saul agreed. This is verse 10. Let's try it. So they started into the town where the man of the Most High lived. As they were climbing the hill to the town, they met some young woman coming out to draw water. So Saul and his servant asked, is the seer here today? And see, this is when, a time when our people will go and search out, the prophets for answers, man. Okay, they will utilize the prophets. Okay, but as our people, you read further and further throughout the scriptures, our people will begin to lose, a reverence for the prophets. Okay, that's why you go here to the book of 2 Chronicles. As you see today, our people don't search out the prophets for spiritual matters. Okay, this is the treatment that prophets get today. 2 Chronicles 36 and at 15 it says, and the Lord power their fathers sent to them by his messengers, rising up betimes and sending, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. All right, so the Lord will send the prophets as a form of compassion. It's an act of compassion towards his people. Because the prophets would be the mediator between, all right, Israel and the Most High, okay, of what was to come and what the Most High expected, all right, of his people, okay. Verse 16, but they mocked the messengers of the Most High and despised his words and misused his prophets until the wrath of the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai arose against his people till there was no remedy, man. All right, and this is what you see today. Instead of Jake seeking out the prophets for spiritual insight, for instructions in righteousness, okay, for understanding what's to come, what's the Lord expects of them, they're making mockery, man. Okay, mockery of the prophets is at an all-time high amongst our people. Okay, so Jake is misusing the office of the prophets, man. Instead of going to inquire about a spiritual matter, okay, Jake is making mockery and misusing the prophets. You see? And the Lord's anger, right, is rising against Jake until the Lord just lash out and there's going to be no remedy, man. Okay? So let's go from there and what we at? Go back to 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel 9. All right, is they're looking for Samuel. Okay, verse 12, it says, yes, I started at 11. It says, as they were climbing the hill to the town, they met some young woman coming down to draw water. So Saul and his servant asked, is the seer here today? Yes, they replied. Stay right on this road. He is at the town gates. He has just arrived to take part in a public sacrifice up at the place of worship. Hurry and catch him before he goes up there to eat. The guests won't begin eating until he arrives to bless the food. The guests won't begin eating till he arrives and bless the food, and that's the reverence that they had for Samuel, man. They held Samuel in high honor. Okay, as a man of the Most High, and he was doing a righteous, a service, being a righteous judge amongst Jake. Okay, and you go here, show you that there was a custom of our people. Job, he was held, all right, in high honor. Okay, when you read the book of Job 29 and verse 4, it says, when I was in my prime, I'm reading NLT, it says, when I was in my prime, and this was before, Job was being chastised by the Lord, and he's reflecting, on, his prime days. It says, when I was in my prime, the Most High's friendship was felt in my home. The Almighty was still with me, and my children were around me. My cows produce milk in abundance, and my groves pour out streams of olive oil. Those were the days when I went to the city gate and took my place among the honored leaders. The young stepped aside when they saw me, and even the aged rose in respect at my coming. The princes stood in silence and put their hands over their mouths. The highest officials of the city stood quietly, holding their tongues in respect. All who heard me praised me. All who saw me spoke well of me. Okay, so Job was a man that was highly reverenced, man, amongst the high officials, even the elders, the leaders. Okay, he was a man of very high reverence, man, and not because of his wealth, man, but because of his righteousness, man. As you read into it, says, all who heard me praised me, all who saw me spoke well of me, for I assisted the poor in their need and the orphans who require help. I helped those without hope, and they blessed me, and I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. Everything I did was honest. Righteousness covered me like a robe, and I wore justice like a turban. I served as the eyes for the blind and the feet of the lame. I was a father to the poor and assisted strangers who needed help. So Job's, all right, reverence came because of his conduct, his character. Okay? Not, just because he was wealthy, because of his conduct and his character, man. He was known to be very charitable, okay? And he was known to be a just man. He used his influence for righteousness, man. Okay? And he had a solid name. You see? And he was highly reverenced, man. Okay? And when you jump down, this is verse 21. It says, Job was blessed, man. This is Job 29. I started 20. It says, new honors are constantly bestowed upon me, and my strength is continually renewed. Everyone listened to my advice. They were silent as they waited for me to speak, and after I spoke, they had nothing to add. For my counsel satisfied them. They longed for me to speak as people long for rain. They drank my words like a refreshing spring rain. When they were discouraged, I smiled at them. My approval was precious to them. Like a chief, I told them what to do. I lived like a king among his troops and comforted those who mourn. Okay, so this the reverence and the rank that Job had, before the Most High began to chasten him. And he had that rank because he was a man of character, and righteous character, and honor, and integrity, man, and charitable, man. Okay? And Samuel, you see, Samuel was highly reverenced to, they wouldn't eat until Samuel came, man. All right? And you see niggas amongst Israel today, when you speak about reverencing the elders, especially, those men, who have showed nothing but integrity, honor, righteous character, diligence. Okay. Yeah, there's a certain reverence you have for those men. All right. But because nigga culture says otherwise, it's a culture of disrespect. Okay. It's toxic as hell. All right. No reverence for any damn thing. And Jake bring their mindset to the truth because they know a few precepts, man. And they think that they don't have to reverence, the elders, man. Those men that toil. Continue to toil in righteousness, man. Okay, but we'll see. This back in 1 Samuel chapter 9, verse 14 says, so they entered the town, and as they passed through the gates, Samuel was coming out toward them to go up to the place of worship. Now the Lord had told Samuel the previous day, about this time tomorrow I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin, anoint him to be the leader of my people Israel. He will rescue them from the Philistines, for I have looked down on my people in mercy and have heard their cry. And this is, the Lord, being merciful unto his people. He giving them what they want, a king, and, he's going to be dealing with Saul for a period of time, to win wars against the Philistines, man. So Saul had a period to where he was like a savior unto Israel. Even King David, reverenced that, when Saul dies, as we get into it. It says, when Samuel saw Saul, the Lord, all right, Yahweh Shema Shai said, that's the man I told you about. He will rule my people. So Saul is called, man, okay, by the Most High. Just then Saul approached Samuel at the gateway and asked, can you please tell me where the seer's house is? And Samuel said, I am the seer. Samuel replied, go up to the place of worship ahead of me. We will eat there together, and in the morning I'll tell you what you want to know and send you on your way. So this shows you that, it was already set up, okay, for Saul, to be called and become, the king. Just showing that the demands goings are of the Lord. Okay. And this is how that if you're predestined, okay, in this truth, man, hey, you're gonna cross the path of the man of the Lord. Now we know Saul, like I say, he was called, he wasn't chosen. All right. But we just see we see how the Lord predestinate things, for Saul to even become, king, and to be used, for a period of time. Okay, that was predestined, man. All right. So the man's going, whether you're 2/3, all right, or the hopeful elect, is all of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. Okay. And it says, verse 20, matter of fact, let me get that, just for edification's sake. Is it 20? We ain't got it in a while. Yep. This Proverbs 20 and 24. And I read in NLT, it said, the Lord directs our steps. So why try to understand everything along the way? Okay. So it's the Lord that directs, the steps of man. And this is why we don't break our backs or bend over backwards, trying to go teach, all right, every single person, try to put ourselves, in the hood, okay, all this community, activists, all these extra gimmicks. And nah, man, the elect, all right, are going to be directed to this word and they're going to be sealed, So let's go back, 1 Samuel 9 and 20. It says, I started 19 again. It says, I am the seer, Samuel replied. Go up to the place of worship ahead of me. We will eat there together, and in the morning, all right, I'll tell you what you want to know and send you on your way. And don't worry about those donkeys that were lost, all right, 3 days ago, for they have been found. And I'm here to tell you that you and your family are the focus of Israel's hope. Saul replied, but I am only from the tribe of Benjamin, the smallest tribe in Israel, and my family is the least important of all the families of that tribe. Why are you talking like this to me? Then Samuel brought Saul and his servant into the hall and placed them at the head of the table, honoring them above the 30 special guests. Okay, so now Samuel, is breaking bread, okay, with Saul. Okay, the Spirit has, Samuel, supping with Saul, man. Okay, because this is who the Lord has called for a particular purpose. Okay, and this also reminds, as we're seeing Saul being honored above all the guests that was there. Okay, what you go here, Luke 14 and 7, and this is the mindset, we should have. And it says, and he put forth this parable to those which were bidden when he marked how they chose out the chief room, saying unto them, so this is Yahweh Shai, and the guests, of a feast, and he's seeing how, certain men will go and sit themselves at positions of honor. Okay, so Yahweh Shai is using this as a moment of teaching. Okay, and it says, when thou art bidden of any man to a wedding, sit not down in the highest room, lest a more honorable man than thou be bidden of him. And he that bade thee, all right, I read this in the NLT, it says, when you are invited to a wedding feast, don't sit in the seat of honor. What if someone who is more distinguished than you, all right, has also been invited? The host will come and say, give this person your seat. Then you will be embarrassed and you will have to take whatever seat is left at the foot of the table. Instead, take the lowest place at the foot of the table. Then when your host sees you, he will come and say, friend, we have a better place for you. Then you will be honored in front of all the other guests. For those who exalt themselves will be humble, and those who humble themselves will be exalted, man. And we want Yahweh Shai, which is the host of this feast. We want him to exalt us in due time. Even, in this ministry now, man, the scripture say the Most High gives the increase. Okay, and we don't want to exalt ourselves and make ourselves to be out something more than what we are. No, we just toil in this thing, in meekness and humility, and let the Lord exalt how he going to exalt, man. Okay, and ultimately the ultimate promotion is going to be on those chariots, man. There's going to be brothers, all right, that are not, all right, known, okay, that are going to be exalted and joint heirs with Yahweh Shai, man, at the day of Yahweh Shai. Okay, so we should just serve in our lot, serve in our office with humility, man. Okay, not seeking for any glory or any attention. Okay, doing too much, but just allow the Lord to deal how he gonna deal, man. put us wherever we need to be. The Lord gonna have us exactly where we need to be, man. Not higher, not lower. Exactly what we're made for. The Lord's gonna keep us in that light, man. And exalt us in our lane. You see? So going back here to 1 Samuel chapter 9. All right, this 1 Samuel 9 and 1 Samuel 9 and what we okay, 22 said, Then Samuel brought Saul and his servant into the hall and placed them at the head of the table and honored them above the 30 special guests. Samuel then instructed the cook to bring Saul the finest cut of meat, the piece that had been set aside for the guest of honor. So the cook brought in the meat and placed it before Saul. Go ahead and eat it, Samuel said. I was saving it for you even before I invited these others. So Saul ate with Samuel that day. When they came down from the place of worship and returned to town, Samuel took Saul to the roof of the house and prepared a bed, for him there. And at daybreak the next morning, Samuel called to Saul, Get up. It's time you were on your way. So Saul got ready, and he and Samuel left the house together. When they reached the edge of town, Samuel told Saul to send his servant on ahead. After the servant was gone, Samuel said, Stay here, for I have received a special message from you, to the Most High. Okay, so we see, Samuel, has been introduced, on the scene. Saul, so like he has been introduced, in the picture, in the narrative, and Samuel is dealing with him, and, he's been called, to be a king of Israel, So we're going to see, the era, of King Saul. We're going to see his beginning, going to his story, segueing into the story of King David, So Lord will, we just keep it going. Lord will, you brothers. All right, and you sisters edified. Till next time, I want to say Shalom. Kwam Yasha'Allah. Baba soon.